I always figured my retirement would be quiet. After 20 years as a federal land inspector, wrangling with bureaucrats, shady developers, and crook surveyors, I thought I'd earned the right to be left alone, so 5 years ago, I cashed out. I bought 9 acres of rugged Colorado hillside and built the dream home I'd been sketching on bar napkins for years. It was 2 stories of pine-beamed glory with a wraparound porch and a full workshop. The land was surveyed meticulously, the title was clean, the coordinates were clean, and my conscience was clear. A couple of years later, some bright-eyed developers built an upscale gated community down the ridge called Blue Haven Ridge. I figured it was no big deal. But then about 10 months ago, Karen Hasslinger rolled in. She arrived in a platinum SUV with a real estate business built on exclusivity. Her bloated Mediterranean-style monstrosity was built right up against my property line, so close it practically stole my shade. And then the letters started. First, a complaint about my garage door's non-compliant color. Then a notice about the height of a fence that wasn't even mine. My favorite was the one complaining that my porch lights created, and I quote, aesthetically jarring nocturnal pollution. I ignored every single one. I was not, and never would be, a member of their HOA. The real trouble started one crisp Tuesday morning in October. I walked outside and saw her, standing square on my side of the boundary line, pointing her phone at my solar panels. I walked over. "You're trespassing," I said, keeping my voice level. She just chirped, "Oh, I'm just gathering information." "For what, exactly?" I asked. She gave me this smug little smile. "Let's just say it's time we settled some things." A week later, the war officially began. I was in my workshop when a man in a cheap suit, with Karen standing right behind him, served me a formal notice. According to their document, my house, specifically the northwest corner of my garage, and part of the workshop roof protruded about 24 feet into land legally owned by the Blue Haven Ridge Homeowners Association. The letter demanded I cease unauthorized occupation and offer a voluntary transfer of improvements to the association. Then Karen handed me a color printout. It was a mangled satellite image with sloppy red lines scribbled all over it. "Our landscape committee determined the incursion using updated visual estimation," she said, as if that meant anything. I just stared at them both. "Did you do your due diligence before accusing me of theft?" I gave them 20 seconds to get off my property. As they were leaving, Karen shot back. "You'll regret making this difficult. Big mistake." I marched straight inside and pulled open my old filing cabinet. In the top drawer was my original land survey notarized, time-stamped, complete with GPS coordinates and satellite overlays from 2 different federal agencies. I photographed every single page and uploaded them to secure cloud storage. Then I called the Mesa County Land Services Department. The district engineer on the phone actually chuckled. "Oh, Karen's trying to annex property again, is she?" He promised to send someone out. But I wasn't waiting around. I drove straight to Rocky Vista Geomatics, the best independent survey firm in the region. I told them I needed a complete GPS resurvey and a drone-based LiDAR sweep, and I needed it within 72 hours. If Karen wanted to play land games, I was going to bring the full, crushing weight of modern cartography down on her head. 2 days later, the survey crew arrived. I watched from my porch as they set up their high-tech equipment. After about 3 hours, the crew chief, a guy named Levy, called me over. He pointed to the ground and confirmed my original 2020 property marker was right where it was supposed to be, completely intact. Then he pointed downhill toward Karen's property. He showed me where a second, newer marker was clearly out of place off by about 30 feet. "It's either a major mistake or it's deliberate," he said. He pulled out his tablet and showed me the preliminary overlay. The red lines on the screen showed their recorded lot. The blue lines, based on the actual GPS data they just collected, showed my parcel. Levi zoomed in. "Here's the kicker," he said. "Karen's back patio, her swimming pool, and part of her detached guest house, all of it is on your land." I stared at the screen, stunned. Her entire estate was bleeding over into my parcel by nearly 8/10 of an acre. This wasn't a smudge on a map. This was straight-up land theft. The pool where she hosted those obnoxious HOA wine mixers? It was built entirely on my dirt. I didn't waste a second. I immediately filed my first motion with the county clerk to register an encroachment dispute, attaching the new certified survey from Rocky Vista Geomatics and a notarized affidavit. I followed that up with a formal cease and desist letter against both Karen and the HOA, sent via certified mail and hand-delivered by a courier for good measure. But here is the crucial move. I submitted an amendment to my property record, a formal claim of adverse occupation. This simple piece of paper started a 30-day clock. They had 1 month to contest my claim with their own proper documentation, or my new survey would become the undisputed public record. Karen's lawyer called me that same afternoon, all smooth and friendly, asking for a good faith sit down. I declined. Instead, I went on the local community Facebook page and posted one single sentence. If you were going to accuse someone of building on your land, make sure your house isn't built on theirs. The post exploded. Someone got a hold of the survey overlay and reposted it. The community grapevine went wild. Suddenly, the pressure on Karen was immense. When our day in court arrived, the room was packed. I wore a simple blazer and the calm expression of a man who had every single receipt. Karen walked in like she was auditioning for a reality show, all drama and performance. Her lawyer tried to spin the whole thing as a regrettable misunderstanding. When it was my turn, I didn't need theatrics. I simply presented the certified documents, the geospatial overlays, and the GPS scan. For extra punch, I showed a video from social media of their last HOA barbecue with guests drinking wine and mingling on what was now proven to be my property. Then, I played a voicemail Karen had left for a neighbor where she bragged, "If we just keep pressure on him, he'll cave. That land's not even worth much to him." The judge deemed the voicemail relevant to proving her intent. The final nail in her coffin came from a neutral witness, the county inspector. He testified that Karen's house had never even received final structure approval, and her pool hadn't been permitted at all. Judge Beatrice Lund's ruling was swift and brutal. She found that Karen had knowingly built illegal structures on private property, acted in bad faith, and attempted to coerce a neighboring landowner using falsified materials. The verdict was a hammer blow. Karen had 30 days to vacate and remove the encroaching structures. She also had to pay me $820,000 in damages, which covered the land value, all my legal fees, and significant punitive damages. As a final touch, the judge ordered temporary external oversight of the entire HOA and a full audit of all their construction approvals. The 30-day deadline came and went. Not a single dime was paid. Karen's lawyer filed for a delay, but the judge denied it within 48 hours, so I filed for enforcement. See, Colorado law has this beautiful little provision. It allows the court to grant the rightful landowner a claim to the improvements on the land, the house, the pool, the garage, if the offender can't or won't pay the compensation. 6 weeks later, I stood in front of the house that had once been the pride of Blue Haven Ridge. With a single signature, I finalized the full and legal transfer of property improvements to me, Thomas L. Eddington. The land was already mine, now the house was too. But I didn't move in. The whole place felt tainted. Instead, I called an old friend, Jack Trujillo, who runs a nonprofit for combat veterans. Together, we came up with a better plan. We decided to turn that palace of fraud into a veterans transition center. We stripped out the gaudy designer furniture. We converted the guest house into a woodworking studio. We covered the infinity pool and turned the deck into a beautiful rooftop garden with a fire pit. When opening weekend came, 5 veterans moved in for our pilot program. Of course, the HOA tried to object, citing aesthetic consistency. I replied by sending them a scanned copy of the court judgment with a sticky note on it that just said, "Aesthetic this." They never followed up. Karen eventually lost her real estate license. The HOA leadership was completely replaced, and the mandatory audits stuck around. The neighborhood actually got quieter and better. I finally got to sit on my upper terrace again, with a cup of black coffee, enjoying the kind of peace I'd built this house for in the first place. And just to be sure, I installed a new sign along my property line, big enough for everyone on the HOA trail to read. It says, "Private property. If you think it's yours, bring a map. A real one." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.